This is session 2, and it's called Puppets Behind the Puppet Stage. The first thing I'm going to talk about is how to manipulate puppets. Now, if you're doing a puppet show and you have a puppet stage and the puppets are going to come up from the back of the stage, one thing that is very, very helpful is having a camera or a phone that you can videotape your practice, because when you're practicing, if you've got a camera on it, then after your practice you can then look at the video and see whether there's any improvements, whether the puppets look like they were up high enough, whether the mouth movement was good. So a camera or a phone where anything that you can videotape your practice is very, very good to have, because a lot of people don't realize that the puppet can be looking the wrong way, can be too low. So a camera will really, really help. If you have something like that, use it. Now, not everyone can manipulate puppets. You'd think anybody could, but no, that's not true. Some people just cannot get the hang of it, to move the mouth at the right time and so on. So I would advise you to get a few people and call yourselves a puppet team, that you can work together to do puppets on and off in your programs. And you should try them out for puppet manipulation, because like I said, not everybody can do it, so you want to make sure that they can work the puppet fine. And so if you have them practice and see how they do, and show them this video, or else show them, tell them exactly what you've learned from this video, how to manipulate the puppets. And if they can do it, fine. If they can't, then you can use them to do props or whatever, set up and things like that. So having a few people as a puppet team is a good idea. Now, anything that's done too often, becomes just the normal thing. You want puppets to be something that's exciting and new, and so I would advise you not to use them too much. Like supposing that you have a puppet that's teaching the kids the memory verse each week, that's fine. But if you have that, then don't have a puppet singing, and like too much of a good thing is not good. So you want it to be special, so don't overuse them. But I would say use them fairly often, because kids love them. And if they know that there's a special program coming up with puppets, that will get excitement going to get other kids to come in to your Sunday school class or your children's gathering, wherever you are, to get children into your program. Now, I find the main problem with puppet manipulation, actually there's two, is that your arm gets tired. Now, if you held your arm up here for 5 minutes, I'm telling you, it gets very, very hard to keep it up there. So you want fast programs and songs that are not too lengthy. And so that is what you have to be careful of, is your hand being up in the air too long, and also, even if it's not, just being careful that once it starts getting tired, you'll not notice it, but your puppet will be coming down, down, down. I've seen some of them where all you can see is the mouth and the head part, because their arm has gotten sore and they haven't realized, and the puppet's going down lower and lower. So that's something that you have to consider. And I find that if I hold my arm underneath the puppet like this, that helps if I know I'm going to be up there for a while. Now, the other thing is, okay, the other thing I was going to say, that when you have your puppet up here, don't have them right where the puppet stage is. Your puppet stage is here. Don't have the puppet up against the stage, because I've seen puppet stages crumble because people were leaning on the bar across the front of the puppet stage. So have your puppet about 4 inches back from the puppet where the puppet stage is. That way you're not going to be hitting that, and you're not going to be hanging over That's a no-no, having your puppet hanging over. You want your puppet 4 inches, and you want your head to be slightly tilted, because if your puppet's here, your head's going to show. So if you put your head down and then you watch your puppet, and you watch your mouth movement of your puppet, and that making sure that it's up high enough and you keep it up there. So the whole time your head should be down like this, and you should be looking up at the puppet's mouth the whole time. I've seen it where puppeteers are looking over here and they figure they know what they're doing, the puppet's moving, but the head's looking over this way when it should be looking this way, and they have no idea that the puppet is starting to lean because their arm is starting to lean, or it's starting to come down. So I really advise you to teach your volunteers to be looking up at their puppet at all times and keeping their head down. Okay, now you want to make the movement of the puppet as realistic as you can. So you don't want just puppets sitting up there stationary, not hardly moving. For example, if you're doing a song and it's a zippy song, you don't want them just standing there mouthing it. You want them to do some movement and kind of just rock them a little bit. Not too much, you don't want it exaggerated too much, but to where it's normal. If somebody was singing, they wouldn't just be standing stationary without moving. They kind of move around a little bit. And even the head, you can move it just a little bit this way and a little bit that way, just so they're not just still all the time. The other thing is, when you're putting your puppet up, if you are not careful, your puppet, if your hand's up like this, the head of the puppet will not be showing. I'll show you, for example. Let's see, I'll use this guy. Okay, this is a puppet I made years and years and years ago. And okay, so what I do with him, or any puppet, okay, so when the puppet is here, now if I hold my hand like this, just straight up like I normally would, you don't see the puppet's face all that much. You need to bend your hand down like this, like you're picking something up from the floor. You know how you would just, well, that's kind of the position your hand should be in, to where you can see the puppet's face. And that's why a camera is so good, because it'll really show them when they've got it wrong. Okay, so you want it down a little bit, and if the puppet's mouth is not real big, it might be hard to see it opening if your hand's down like this. So sometimes just doing a little at the side, so they can see the movement of the mouth as well. With this guy, he's got a big mouth, so it doesn't matter. He can be straight on. Okay, so that's very important, to make sure that, you know, they look realistic, that your hand's down a bit, facing down in this position, like you're picking something up, so that they can see the eyes and the rest of the head of the puppet. Okay, now when puppets are coming out, okay, rather than having a puppet go zoom and he's up there, it's better to walk your puppet up. And it looks a lot better, and it makes it more realistic. Now, if your stage is here, for example, okay, and your puppet's down here, rather than just have them go up like this, some songs you might have to do that because they're quick and you have to get them up right away. But most times in skits and slower songs, you can have him walk up. And the way you do that is you just gently have him going up like this, okay, like it looks like he's going back and forth walking. So this is the way he would come up. Okay, never have the hands hanging over the puppet, because that looks so unnatural. Have him always behind, and he should be at belly button height when he comes up. He shouldn't be down here. He should be about this high, belly button height. And like I said, so he's coming up, okay, and then he stands there till his part starts. Now, it won't hurt if he comes up a few seconds before he's actually going to say something or sing something. You don't want him up there too long where he's just standing there, but as he's coming up, okay? You can have him just stand there and then he starts to speak or sing, okay? Now for going down, a good way to do it, as long as there's time and it's not if it starts another person singing and he's finished, then you might have to just take him down. But the best way is to have him turn around and then walks down. Make sure the arms aren't hanging around. And he walks down, okay? So he's coming up and he stands there, okay? And again, make sure his head's down, and then he's going to turn around and he's going to walk down. And he walks out. So that looks very professional doing it like that, rather than just having them pop up and pop down. And it depends again on what you're doing as to whether that will work or not. Okay. Now, I can't emphasize enough to be watching the puppet's mouth and bending your head down. Those are two things, if I had to emphasize anything, I would really emphasize that. Now, we're going to start the puppet movement of the mouth. This is very important as well, because you want your puppet to look like he's actually saying the words. You don't, when you speak, you don't just open your mouth to words, you actually open your mouth to syllables. For example, the word baby. I opened my mouth and closed it twice. Baby. So a puppet must do the same thing. When you're opening his mouth, is baby, not baby, and then close it. So syllables are very important. The other thing is, don't hold the mouth open too wide, because it looks choppy if a puppet is saying baby, and besides that, it takes too long to open it wide and close it, and it just doesn't look normal. When we speak, we don't open our mouth baby, so neither should a puppet. It should be baby. Sometimes I will open a little wider, and just so it looks a little more natural. Hello there, how are you today? See how I went today? I opened that a little bit wider to make it look a little more natural. Okay, so we're going to practice one, and I want you to practice with me this line, okay? So pretend, get your arm up, make sure that your hand is downward, and now you're going to say this sentence. So try it with me. I'll do it a few times. And watch my puppet as well. The mother went to see why her baby was crying. She picked up the baby and gave it a bottle. Now, do you see how many times my mouth opened? Now again, I'm not paying attention to my puppet, so it's starting to drag and it's coming down and stuff like that. So again, you have to be very, very careful of that. But right now we're just practicing the mouth, not where he's standing. So let's try it again. Again, I'll just do it with my hand. The mother went to see why her baby was crying. She picked up the baby and gave it a bottle. So one more time, so try it with me. The mother went to see why her baby was crying. She picked up the baby and gave it a bottle. So that is a good way to practice, is just practicing sentences, using your hand, or if you have already a puppet, then use the puppet and keep practicing. Practice makes perfect. And if you've got a puppet team and it can be a wonderful ministry. Ministering to kids is just a wonderful ministry. It makes me sad when people say, oh, well, they're just kids. Or you can't get anybody that will go and do a Sunday school class. Teaching children is so wonderful. I mean, they are so open and they absorb things. And if you'll learn how to get their attention, and puppets is one way, a wonderful way to get the attention of the children. And what you've got to keep it and keep the program going to where it is fun for kids. And my philosophy has always been um, I would rather reward children for being good than getting after them for being bad. And the other one is I want to make learning a joy for kids. If you make it a fun time, kids will want to learn. So you start off with the fun stuff. The other thing I've seen that makes me sad is when people think all you have to do is fun stuff with the kids. That's not true. Children will sit and will listen to lessons if they're interesting. And if you have prayed and got God's mind on what to say and the Holy Spirit is helping you, you can see just, I've seen God actually touch little children, and that's what should happen. But the puppets are a tool that you use to get the kids' attention, to bring kids in, and I will be talking about that more in the next lessons. And so use puppets. They're a wonderful, wonderful tool. And I will also be talking about puppet stage ideas in one of the upcoming lessons. So I hope that you'll check them out. And thank you so much for listening. And I hope that this lesson was helpful to you and that you will use puppets to minister to kids. The children will hear everything the puppet says and remember everything the puppet says. So rather than you just up there talking all the time, if you use puppets and you use them well, then the children will absorb so much more because, like I said, they will hear what the puppet says more readily than what you say. So thank you very much for joining me, and may God bless you.